Hey everyone, Eric on Paper here, and according to the internet, I'm Eric. So, before we begin on the inking part of the tutorial, a quick Spider-Man 4 update. I'm really excited to announce that we are going to start filming completed scenes next month. Uh, and I've been looking forward to it for so long. We have all the shot list, storyboards, and everything completed, and now we're at a point where we will start to move forward. I will give you a full update video. It was going to be a small one, but then things just started moving really rapidly, and look forward to a big update video, much bigger than the one I had planned, coming soon. But yes, filming is starting in May, and we've got a lot scheduled already. We're actually going to be a bit ahead of schedule from even our initial plan, so that's a lot to look forward to. But now onto the art. So when you're hired as an inker, oftentimes you're not working with your own pencils. I mean, of course, you are hired as an inker. So frequently I've just inked my own work, but I thought I'd give myself a challenge and also pass along what I learned and things like that. So we have this exceptional Wolverine piece that I inked. Before we begin, this piece is illustrated by Eric Fidel. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He's on Instagram under Hey I'm Eric, and also still in keeping with the Eric on Paper theme. He's another Eric on Paper. So moving on, the first thing I do is figure out where the highlights are and where the shadows. Now it looks like Wolverine has a strong overhead light, so I put my thinner lines on top and my thicker lines at the bottom, thicker lines away from the light, thinner lines, of course, closer to the light. Now, he's drawn the piece in a style I very much like, almost very, to me, 90s imagey. Of course, if you watch his channel, you know that's what I go for. And so what I'm going in is I'm going in and filling in a whole bunch of details, with lots of hatching and shading, but also when you're an inker, it's not your job to hijack an artist's piece and say, well, this is in my own style. You are there to complement the artist and to enhance their pencils. Like, his figure work is very tight, I've noticed, but he's pretty open with his shadows. Sometimes there's room for what I think is a solid shadow, and other times he's hatched in an area, and that just lets me know I have some wiggle room. But also, as an inker, you're not a slave to the pencils either, and what I mean by that is I look at the piece and decided that Wolverine needed some additional shading and line work to just give him some more depth. Personally, I'm not a big fan of high contrast pieces. I really like the hatching work and the blending of areas. And in filling in the larger areas of black, though, what I tend to do is go for a brush pen. It is a lot easier and so much less effort than going through with, like, I don't know, even a 0.08 micron and filling that in there. As you can see, even here on the leg, he had some interesting shadow and detailing notes, and I wanted to keep those intact. And then with the environment, I went with the thinnest pen I had to create that texture in concrete. But to differentiate Wolverine, since I pretty much did him all with micron pens, I wanted to have these dead, I assume they're Hand Ninja, down on the ground. I went in with a brush pen just to fill in those spots and to break up the line work quite differently. Now here's a video in real time where I'd given Wolverine a solid black and in an area where there was shadow right behind him. Now the problem with that is, of course, the fact that I like depth, and that would just flatten out his leg. So instead of going in with a solid black, I just did a few layers of hatching and cross-hatching. And never keep your hatches parallel to the page. It just begins to look weird and a little too manufactured. And have your hatch lines go with the grain of whatever object your character is in front of. like with that area, I gave that mostly a solid shadow, except right where it butts up against Wolverine's leg. And on this piece, sure, I could go in with a white highlighter and give Wolverine that line, but that would give a highlight that didn't make any sense. So I just moved over to the other piece, or I should say the other side of his leg, and worked on that. Now here I accidentally created a tangent, and where it looks like everything is on the same plane, and I'm solving that by just tracing in the line again with a much thicker line for this dead ninja's hood, and I think it breaks it up a little bit better. And now here with the arrow, I'm just adding some texturing to suggest wood, and that's another part of an inker's job too, is adding additional textures and detail work. And they're suggesting a feather on the arrow. And now with Wolverine's claws, I just go in with a French curve and start to fill that in. And now with this piece all completed, I added shadows on his claws and added a little more metal texture. And as an inker, it's your job, as I said, to bring the pencils to life, look for additional areas to add depth, and there you have it. Again, this is a really cool piece from Eric. I will happily ink more pieces from him. He has a great style, really inking friendly, and the cool thing about inking is the choices I made may not be your choices, and that is cool. Inking is all about expressing styles. So I'm going to be obviously doing a lot of work on Spider-Man 4, and have still working on the character list. I've been doing a Hellraiser piece commissioned by my good friend Tony Straka. Also working on a Solid Snake piece and a whole bunch of other great things just for the art. But in the meantime, keep telling your stories.